Hey guys, Pastor Gary here, and I wanted to share a few thoughts on where we were Sunday, 1 Corinthians chapter 11. And we started out by saying the first verse of chapter 11 really belonged in chapter 10. And here's the way that it would have read. If we back up to verse 31 of chapter 10, it says, "Therefore, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. Give no offense either to the Jews or to the Greeks or to the church of God. Just as I also please all men in all things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of many, that they might be saved." And then the Apostle Paul starts verse 1 of chapter 11, "Imitate me, just as I also imitate Christ." Now, I talked about how this whole aspect of asking others or telling others or even instructing others, hey, follow me, follow my example, follow my lead, is something that, I tell you what, it kind of scares me. It kind of causes me to think, man, I don't want people following what I do because I mess up all the time. But understand that what Paul is saying is he's saying that in context of how it is that he's putting this forth, is he's saying, hey guys, you can follow me as I follow Christ. Now, hey, we live in a day and age where people are very often trying to dismiss the aspect of them being a role model or them being something that's worth following. As a matter of fact, it always grieves me when I see some celebrity or some sports figure or something say, hey, don't follow me. I'm not a role model. I'm not supposed to be somebody that is emulated. Yet, they're the same people that are saying, buy my records, attend my events, support my lifestyle, but I don't want to be responsible for how I act. Guys, that's just not how it works. Paul's got the right context. He says, hey, you can follow me as long as I'm following Christ. Why? Because I in myself have nothing of value to follow, but as I strive after Christ, as I seek after Christ, it's something worth following. Now, I think that it's important that we as Christians and we as believers understand just what this means and how important it is, because every time that we see a failing within God's people, every time we see a failing within those that are called to serve the Lord, hey, it puts a black eye kind of on Christianity altogether. When a major Christian figure falls or fails or winds up growing into some sort of sin, it just kind of creates this idea that maybe God failed. And guys, understand, nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, we as individuals are going to fail, but God never does. Our service in Him may fall short, but God's faith and love and desire to do that which is good for us never does. And so it's important that we do understand that while we're apt to fail, it's not a failing on God's part. While God's people are apt to fail, it's not a failing on God's part. And so the question becomes one of then, how do we present and what kind of responsibilities do we have? Well, on Sunday, I talked about one of the greatest responsibilities that I see coming out of this aspect of being an example, being one to follow, has to do with being a man of God. Not to exclude women in any way, shape, or form, but understand the order that God has put forth. God has called the men of the family, the man of the family, especially within husbands and wives relationships, fathers and children's relationships, to be the leader, to be the one that is the spiritual protector, the spiritual guider, the spiritual provider of their families. And so, men, this challenge goes out to you. Remember, we are placed in a position not of authority over our families in such a way to where we lord it over or we make demands of them, but because our example is Christ, because our example is how Christ has loved us, we are to love our spouses. We are to love our children. We are to give ourselves for them. The example that we put out is very, very important. It's so important that we are called to example that which is godly leadership, godly oversight, godly protection to our wives and to our families, to our children, and to everyone that we are involved with. And so it's so important that we embrace this concept of being willing to say, follow me as I follow Christ. That's the key. Not because I'm so good, not because I'm without error, but because Christ is. And as long as I'm following Christ, then I'm worthy to be followed because His example will never fail. So guys, I want to encourage you to look and see what God's Word has to say. Look at the order that He has prescribed, and that we as men of God, we as leaders within our families, husbands to their wives, fathers to their children, men to the world around us, that we are to say, you know what? It's okay to look at my example because I'm going to live an example that's worthy of Jesus Christ through the power of His Spirit, and follow me as I follow Christ. God bless you guys. I hope to see you soon. Calvary Chapel, Dayton Valley. Come out and see what God's doing here. See what He's got for you. And most of all, come out and join into the fellowship of what Jesus Christ has called each and every one of His children to be, which are true followers of Him. Have a great day. God bless you. We hope to see you soon.